I hope everybody is doing well as everyone's jumping on for tonight's live tasting. Pretty excited about this one. It's a good experiment, I think, and certainly one that's going to help us to just work out whether or not we have developed our palate in a way. So please jump in, say hi, let me know that you're here. You may notice that it's just me tonight. We've had a little bit of a resourcing issue, is what we'll call it, is what we'll label it. So I'm actually going to have to do a post-recorded, not a pre-recorded, but a post-recorded interview with one of the team at Scapegrace, because they really wanted to be able to do a live, but just couldn't work it out as far as resourcing went. So it is just me tonight. If that means that you're going to drop away, I'll be really sad. So I'm hoping that you are ready to join me as we do our tasting this evening. It may mean that it's a bit of a shorter tasting, but let's just see as we have a little play. So if you are just joining me, hi, it's been a while since I've seen everybody. Well, it feels like it anyway. It was just over a week ago that we were all together. I was actually in Queenstown last week, so that's been nice, and came back and hit the ground running. So what are we going to need for tonight's tasting? So tonight we're tasting two gins. We're tasting the Uncommon range, which I can't tell you how excited I was to be able to get these into the box, because some of you may have seen me doing a little bit of a rave about the Uncommon gins. And why is that? Okay. So doing a little bit of a rave about the Uncommon gins, and to be able to get not one but both of them in the box was absolutely superb. Can I tell you how lucky you are to be able to be tasting these? Because these are limited release, and by the time I spoke with Scapegrace, they actually had no stock left themselves. So we have had to do quite a bit of scrambling in order to pull this together. Well, by we, I mean actually they and their brand representative teams. Which we are so grateful for, because it really has meant that we could have these two great gins in the box. And for our birthday box, I was like, I really do want these gins in the box. So this is exciting to be able to be doing this tonight. So what are you going to need to know or have on hand for you tonight? Well, you're going to need these two. Now you'll see that I have popped mine in brown bags. And that is because we are blind tasting them tonight. So I've just done a little bit of a fold over. That has meant then that I have I've covered over the labels, so then I can't see them. And so we're going to be doing a bit of blind tasting and seeing what that means, and whether or not we can discern how our palate has developed. Even if you're just new to joining us, having a look at how our palate has developed. So this is going to be really cool. The reason that this will work so well for us is because both of these gins have the same base spirit, but also the same base gin in there. So they're all of the same base botanicals. And then what they've done with the Uncommon range is they've actually then added additional botanicals to make the Uncommon range. Sorry, I'm getting super distracted because my video is really laggy and very annoying. I'm just going to see whether I can switch something off to see what is doing that. Let's just turn some stuff off, and then hopefully I'll fix it. All right, let's see whether that's any better. Nope, not. Okay, fun. All right, so the other thing that will be handy for you to have is our little tasting booklet. And You'll be wanting that because you want to be able to see the actual notes on it, so then you can decide which gin it is that you are actually tasting. So you've probably got some people still jumping on. So if you're just jumping on, please pop in the chat, say hi. Hi Dot, nice to see you here tonight. I know that if you've had a week like mine, it might be that people are running a little bit late tonight. And yeah, I've had one of those weeks where it's just been full on. I don't know about everybody else's, but mine has certainly been very full on. All right, so Dot, you just missed that I'm saying we just need to have our gins in our brown paper bags here, and then we will be ready to do our blind tasting. So I've got both of those Scapegraces in some brown paper bags. I'm just going to check and make sure that we are streaming okay. Doc, can you just let me know whether we're streaming all right? Because I am seeing it very laggy. So anyone that's on the call, can you just let me know that you can see it all right? And it's not lagging. And I'm just going to check as well. Let's see, is it lagging at your end? Have you had one of those days where technology just doesn't work? Mine is happening today. It is a day that technology has not worked. Okay, it looks like it's all right. Looks like it's streaming okay. Alrighty. Okay, so let's get into it. We are going to need a couple of glasses for this. And I think the best way to do this is to take it one at a time. Okay, there's two choices here. You can take it one at a time, or you could pour one of each into two separate glasses and then decide which one it is that you're tasting. But I really want you to just really notice, so I'm just going to pour one at a time, and really start to notice what those flavors are that we are tasting here. Because the thing is, between these two Scapegraces, they are very, very different flavors. So I don't know about everybody else, but tonight I actually chose to put it over ice. After last week's tasting, which by the way wasn't that good, that Tinirima gin, I just thought that I'd quite like it over some ice tonight, just to see whether that actually enhanced the flavors or whether I found that over ice did cut back some of the flavors. So let's just have a sip. If you're having a sip of one, let me know. Or if you're trying both at the same time, let me know. What are you going to do? So when you're first tasting it, and I haven't done the nose tonight at all because I actually want to focus more in on the taste and the flavors. So when you're first tasting it, notice what is first coming through for you. So one of the first things that I'm noticing with this particular gin that I'm drinking is it's quite a dry mouthfeel. It's a very, very clean finish. And there is some savory-ish flavors to it. So it's very delicious. Very, very delicious. I can't pick up what flavors I'm really getting in that, and I do think the ice has played a little bit with it. So yeah, let me know if you're drinking it with ice or whether you're drinking it at room temperature. I have a funny feeling I may have made a mistake pouring mine over ice, but I mean it's very delicious, but I just don't know that I'm getting all the flavors. Right, I might have to do this by the power of deduction. The flavors that I think I'm tasting in there is a bit of a sharpness and slightly salty taste in that. And so I do think that this is the one that's got the olive brine in it. But I'm going to try the other one and just see. Now I don't know whether I've just poured the same thing. That was stupid. I should have marked it. Oh no, I have poured two different ones. I'm just looking at the neck of the bottle to see. Yeah, I have poured two different ones. All right, let's see what this one is like. You have mine over ice as well too, Dot. Yeah. Oh, okay. That one has got a much stronger flavor. Definitely. Okay, so Tanya's saying with ice for her, but Simon's going without ice. Oh, living dangerously, Simon. And that'll be really interesting actually for both of you, just to decide whether or not you are tasting it differently. Have a sip of each other's. Simon, that means you have to share. Or maybe it's Tanya that I have to tell needs to share. But yeah, have a sip and see whether it changes the flavor. I'd be really interested. So this one that I have just sampled now has definitely got a strong flavor of, for me, I'm getting that smokiness that's coming through. So I'm fairly certain that this one here is the I've just got to remember which way it is, the early harvest. I'm pretty certain that this one is the early harvest, and the first one that I drank is the late harvest. So the reason I'm saying that is I can taste that smokiness, and it's got it's not as dry in the mouth. It's got a far more full sort of rich juiciness in the mouth as well. I don't know whether you're experiencing that as well, but that is I believe, the nectarine flavor coming through. And I must admit, I was so intrigued when they said they were going to use nectarines, because I'd always thought that nectarines and peaches would go amazing in gin. So I was really excited to see that. And I did speak with Mark earlier on, and he was saying that there was a lot of sampling that went on, and obviously a lot of different recipes tried as they're trying to capture the essence of that season in sort of those winemaking regions. So I think they've done a really great job. So I'm picking that this one here is the Central Otago Early Harvest, because I think that I am getting that nectarine flavor. But what's really given it away for me is the smokiness. And I'm not too sure whether you guys can also taste smokiness. For me, that's something that my palate just really picks up. Dot, you might find that it's some of the spiciness that comes through a little bit more, because just judging from some of the comments you've had in the past, it seems like you really taste that spiciness. Oh, I just love that one. That one is a little bit of me, I have to say, a little bit of me. So, have you all had a try of both of your gins? And if so, are you going to reveal to yourself whether or not you got it right? Because I'm going to give that a try now. Oh, okay. The big reveal. Did I get it right? Yes, that one is the early harvest. I was right in that. And then the other one is our late harvest gin. So that's really interesting, because the late harvest gin for me I couldn't really discern a lot of different flavors in that, whereas the early harvest is quite flavorful for me. So in the late harvest, just if you haven't checked out your tasting notes, in the late harvest we've got, it says that the palate is initially clean and textural. I definitely picked up on that. Rolling into fleshy pear and aromatic olive and raspberry leaf. So what came through for my palate on that late harvest gin was more of that, I think the olive coming through, because I got a lot more of the saltiness happening. So I'm not too sure whether that's what happened for you guys as well, but that was certainly what I got. Towards the back of the mouth, I'm getting a bit of. Tanya, I'm picking that's you. Tasted both and forgot which bottle was put in which glass. I failed. Yeah, I think. Well, that's the whole idea of the brown bag, isn't it? Is that you should be able to taste it and then perhaps look at the tasting notes and see which one is which. You should be able to tell because they're quite distinctive in their flavors. Well, they certainly are for my palate. So if they are for yours as well, I'll be really interested. It is interesting because I think that usually what I find is most people like, they have a favorite of these two. And so I've found that I've found that traditional London dry lovers tend to go more for that late harvest. So Simon, are you loving that late harvest over the early harvest? I mean, this is a gross generalization, but I have found that a lot of people that like the more sort of juniper forward, drier styles of gin tend to like that late harvest gin. And it has got a touch of sweetness at the back of the palate after you've had a few sips of it. And I think that is that perhaps some sweetness coming through from the pear, but also perhaps that raspberry leaf as well that's coming through. But not to forget that in the base gin of Scapegrace, they already have lemon in there. So lemon will be adding that sweetness as well, coming through. So the base may be coming through a bit stronger. And perhaps when you look at, yeah, I'm just seeing. So Dot's just said, I'm a bit breathless. Late harvest without ice, not as sharp. So is late harvest your favourite, Dot? Because I think Tanya is saying that she likes both. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like both as well. I really do. But I must say, if you had to put my arm behind my back and force me, then I think I'd go early harvest myself. So Dot's saying yes. Yes, she likes the late harvest. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what they've captured here, and it'll be great when we really get to hear from the team at Scapegrace, is what they've captured is they've done a very good job, particularly with the late harvest, in capturing some real subtleties in flavors. So I think that the late harvest is very subtle in flavors, and maybe my palate is not quite that discerning to be able to really pick up some of those subtleties. And then the early harvest to me kind of smacks you about, which I like in a gin. I like a good, a good strong punchy flavor, and being able to, really get some really good juices going. Okay, Dot is actually saying the early is her favourite. I got that wrong. Sorry about that, Dot. Yeah. So you're with me then. I love that early. It is something sensational. Okay, late one is very smooth. Yeah, definitely. Very smooth and quite clean and crisp on the palate and quite dry as well. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because the early harvest one actually, when you think about it, doesn't feel as smooth. But I do wonder because that's because of perhaps for me, that juiciness that comes through and that smokiness that comes through doesn't kind of lend itself to a really smooth palate. Um, but yeah, with the late harvest one, you're so right. It is very, very smooth. And I mean, over ice, I think that's really sublime. And I think what they've done really nicely is, like it's 40.8% alcohol by volume for the late and the same for the early. So it's stronger than some of the alcohol by volumes on the market, um, but it doesn't feel like a really punchy, strong alcoholic sort of base. I think it is really nice as far as what they have done with just adding to, I mean, let's face it, the Scapegrace was already a very good gin. And then they have now developed it further and made it into these two uncommon ranges. So I'm going to try adding a mixer. And what I actually thought I might do is I'm going to do, because we're all about the experiments tonight, I'm going to add what I thought would be the ultimate, I thought, in um, in mixes. And so what I thought I'd do is I'm going to make my own little mix. And I'm going to do that by using some of the classic. So this one here is the Royal Botanical Tonic. I'm not sure that we've had it in a box for you. The reason that we probably, maybe we did an early box. I can't remember. But the Royal Botanic Tonic is using botanicals from the Royal Society Garden, I believe it's called. And it's a really strong tonic. It's a really, really strong tonic. But I have been, so just to finish that sentence, it's a really strong tonic, but it's made that way because it is meant to go with something that's got a lot of high botanicals. But I've actually been listening to some of our gin distillers who have been saying that, if you find that it's overpowering, try topping it up with soda. So I thought, well, tonight's the night to try that, right? So I'm going to do a splash of the Royal Botanical Tonic in there, in each of my glasses. And then I'm going to top it up with soda water to give me that long drink that I'm looking for. So what I'm hoping I will have created is I'll still get some of the quinine and the tonic-y flavour coming through, but not nearly as strong as what would normally come through by just topping it up with soda. So here you go, Tanya. I'm meeting you halfway tonight. A little bit of tonic, and so I've probably got a third tonic and 2/3 soda in my mix. And so we're going to see what that does, because what I'm hoping it's going to do is that the tonic's just going to add to and perhaps support those lovely botanicals in our gins, and then the soda will get not overpower it, but still give me that long drink. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. So cheers, everyone. Let's hope my experience is a good one. My experiment is a good one. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me if I can't even string two words together. I've literally been speaking for 3 days because I've run 3 days worth of facilitation back to back. And this morning when I started facilitating, I was almost losing my voice. So I was literally having spoonfuls of honey to try and keep my voice this morning. So yeah, I'm getting to the point where I may not be able to talk for a few days. And for those of you who know me, that doesn't happen that often. So Darren's in for a quiet weekend. All right, so Tanya is saying, speaking of people that know me, I prefer the late harvest without ice, smooth and smoky without an afterbite. That's so interesting. I wonder where you're getting the smokiness from. Maybe it's that olive that's backing that up. That's really interesting. I mean, the late one is definitely smoother than the early. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, and anyway, I'm going to try this because I can smell it and I'm dying to try it. Right, so this is the late harvest with my blend of Royal Botanical tonic and soda water. So let's just see what happens here. Oh, I do have to say that the blend of Royal Botanic tonic and the soda water is a win. That has Royal Botanic on its own is way too overpowering for any of our beautiful New Zealand gins. In fact, I just don't know a gin that you'd want to drink it with. Maybe Gordon's to overpower the taste. I don't know. But it has got some lovely flavors to it. It really has. And, you know, this, what I've got now is I've just got a very light touch of that flavor with then the soda water, which is really adding nicely to my wee gin here. So that's an absolute win. That is a really, really lovely drink. Okay, now we'll see what it's done to my favorite, which is the early harvest. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Tanya, who they have known me for some time, is saying if I'm losing my voice, they're going to come for dinner, and then Darren and I will get a lot of words in. Yeah, you probably didn't want me to publish that comment, Tanya, but I did anyway because that is funny. Um, yeah, he's hoping I lose my voice. It will be a quiet weekend if I do, but I shouldn't really say that. For those of you who don't know what I do during the day, I am a facilitator, so I spend a lot of time teaching people, mainly corporate clients, things like leadership. This week it's been design thinking. I've done some virtual facilitation training, and I have done some procurement training this week. So it's been my week so far. Yesterday morning started at 4 a.m, so that was a bit of a rough one with a global group. So hence I think the reason that my voice was going missing by this morning. All right, so this one here is the early harvest, and it's with, again, the Royal Botanical mix, so a third Royal Botanical and a third soda. I've lost a bit of my flavour with that one. That's actually gone a bit flat. Not the actual mix, but the combination with that gin. What it's done is I've lost all that beautiful smokiness that I really enjoyed in the early harvest, and instead I have got a lot more of the nectarine and that fruit coming forward. It's nice, but it's not my favourite. Okay, Dot, absolutely. Hope everyone is nice and dry. Tanya and Simon, I hope you guys didn't get flooded. Let us know. I haven't asked you that. That's terrible of me. Some friend. Yeah, we definitely had, we're actually up on the hill, so we didn't get any flooding, but I've had clients all week that have been flooded. In fact, one lady today was literally in her office and said that yesterday she was sitting in about an inch of water. So that doesn't sound too nice. And so now she's trying very hard to dry things out, but of course it was still raining. So she's hopefully going to get some stuff dry as the weather moves through. But yeah, Dot, no lack of water. You're absolutely right. 8 centimeters. Wow. Yeah, wow. Um, there was a lot of water around. We have our one-way bridge at the end of our road, and the water was up to the bridge. We've never ever seen it like that, literally splashing over the bridge. And then we have a bush walkway that we usually walk the dog through um, most nights, and obviously we didn't walk it through when the rain was happening because we're not that dedicated. But my husband Darren walked Coco last night, and he said that it must have been totally flooded, the entire track. And the track would be, I would say, a good, not that I'm a good judge of distance, but I would say it would be a good 1.5 to 2 meters above the normal level of the what we call a creek. But quite obviously it turned into a river and became a lot higher than that. So yeah, there's certainly been some water. There has certainly been some water, that's for sure. All right, is anyone else trying with a mixer? Never had that much water, and Great South Road was like a river. Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, not cool, but crazy. Um, what was somebody saying to me today? They were saying, we've had 3 1 in 100 year events in the last year alone. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you're wrong, actually. Um, it really has felt like that, hasn't it? Okay, this is kind of growing on me, I have to say. As I've taken a couple more sips, and now some of the flavors are developing a little bit more. Um, Yeah, I understand that, Dot. Dot's just saying that she hasn't tried the gins with a soda or anything because she's enjoying them neat. I totally understand that. Um, I have drunk the early harvest with just a light tonic um, when I first tried it, and it certainly went down well. Um, like a Mediterranean fever tree tonic goes really well with actually both of them because that Mediterranean just has that nice sort of herbaceous kind of element to it, and it helps to bring out some of those botanicals. But I totally understand drinking it over ice because it certainly is delicious. I did try the other night. Cordula will be very proud of me when she watches this recording. I did try making a martini with the early harvest. I think I made a mistake there because I probably should have made the martini with the late harvest. So the early harvest having that nectarine and that a little bit more on the sweet side, I would say. Just when you add a little bit of vermouth to it, it just made it that bit more sweeter, and therefore, just yeah, it wasn't quite right. So maybe I'll have to go back round and make a martini with the late harvest because I can imagine that with a couple of little olives poked in there would be absolutely delicious because you'd actually be drawing on some of that the olive leaf that they've used in there. Well, it's not actually clear when I look at that, thinking about it. It says that they've used fleshy pear and aromatic olive and raspberry leaf. So I don't know how you guys interpret that, but I had interpreted it initially as olive leaf and raspberry leaf. But perhaps I've misinterpreted that. Maybe it's that they've actually used pear, olive, and then raspberry leaf. So I don't know what you guys think, whether you're picking up the actual olive or not. Oh, they really are good, aren't they? They've done such a good job with those. I thought Scapegrace has always been one that has done incredibly well on both the national and the international stage. They've done very well. And, to be fair, they have a strong marketing focus as well to their business. But, they really were probably responsible. And if you go back and watch the original Scapegrace tasting that we did, we talked a lot about the fact that they were responsible for really bringing New Zealand craft gin to New Zealanders, because it was their really big push that they had in the New Zealand market in particular, that started to get people thinking about New Zealand gins and what there could be. So, you know, this may be an unpopular statement, but I think a lot of our gin distillers probably have Scapegrace to thank for the fact that people sort of sat up and realised that New Zealand gin was a thing and was something that we should be drinking. Um, and certainly converted quite a few people to New Zealand craft gin. And so, they took what was a really good product in the first place, their original Scapegrace, and then, obviously they have created the Goldilocks and they've also created the black gin, and now they've created these uncommons. So what Mark did tell me is that they are going to release these uncommon ranges as limited releases, and there'll usually be, I think the aim is for them to have two out a year. So this will be the two that we've had for this year. Maybe we'll get the next two around Christmas, because these actually did release around about Christmas last year. They just kind of came in a little bit under the radar. I'm trying to think when I first tried it. I think it was around Christmas. Um, and so maybe we'll get another lot around Christmas. But one thing I do know is that there is not a lot. We actually don't have a lot of stock of it either. So if you are after a bottle, I would recommend that you get some sooner rather than later. So whichever bottle it is that you liked, you can scan your QR code on the back and go directly through to the website and be able to order it, because we don't have a lot of stock. And I know that when I talked with the wholesale supplier that carries all the stock, um, they were literally down to very few bottles. So whether or not I took the last of it, I'm not too sure, but it wasn't too far off the last of it. So whatever is in the bottle stores and with us at the moment is pretty much the stock that's left. As I said earlier, Scapegrace themselves, they were gone a long time ago, so you can't order it off their website. They don't have any stock left of it. So what are you thinking? Do we like these uncommons? That early harvest really is growing on me with that tonic and soda. It is really, really quite good. Dangerous though, isn't it? Drinking gin when you're thirsty. Should have drank a big glass of water before I started this, because it really can be dangerous. But I thought tonight would be a little bit of fun. And of course, if you're watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay and put up what it is that you enjoyed. And how did you go with your brown bag? Like, are you delighted with how your palate has been able to distinguish different flavors? I have to say that I thought that I would do a little better tonight actually than what I did. The late harvest, because I tried that one first, I found that really hard to discern some of the flavors. Um, and that's from somebody who has tried this gin once or twice before. So I actually thought that I would have done a little bit better than what I did. And I do wonder, so, and I'd be interested in your comments, I do wonder whether it's because there's a lot of botanicals in it and we haven't got perhaps some of those traditional kind of flavors coming through from the traditional elements of gin. So, one of the things that we can't taste in neither the late harvest or the early harvest, I mean, maybe you can, but I certainly can't, is we can't taste any juniper. Yet in the original Scapegrace, we can taste juniper. Likewise, in the original Scapegrace, for me, I find that the lemon comes through really nicely, and I also find that that coriander comes through quite nicely. But those are not prominent in these uncommon gins. So,
could you try again?
Seriously, why is Siri talking? It's all happening today, I have to say. One of those days. I should definitely down both of these bottles. So yeah, that is one of the things that I found quite interesting about tasting these, is that you haven't got those base kind of traditional gin flavors coming through, because the flavors with the yeah, I've just seen Dot's comment. She's saying she just found some light tonic water, and it really has changed the flavor of the early harvest. And you're so right, it really does. Um, I actually found that, so, as I've been saying, I've just tested it with a Royal Botanical, but only a dash of that, really. So a third of that, and then topped up with soda water. Um, and certainly the first couple of mouthfuls, I really lost the flavors that I so enjoyed with the early harvest. But it's balanced out now to quite a nice long drink. I wouldn't say it's as nice as having it just neat on ice, because the neat on ice definitely gives a lot more of those flavors coming through, and they're just like that early harvest to me with the nectarine and the smoky pollen is sublime. So if you haven't read your tasting notes, you'll have, if you want to flick to that in your book, you'll see that the early harvest, because I did talk about the late harvest before, but the early harvest has punchy and vivid nectarine to start, with savoury pollen following. Citrus and coriander finishes the mid palate. So I really noticed that nectarine flavour. And to me, it brings back those beautiful summer memories of like a really delicious, juicy nectarine. And then I get that smoky pollen coming through. So I get the smokiness. Whether it's pollen, I wouldn't be able to tell it, to be really honest. But I do get the smoky pollen. Now, it's quite interesting. They say the finish is clear, clean, and refined, savoury with lavender and juniper building on top. That lavender for me would be subtle, I think. Um, yeah, I wouldn't say that is an incredibly strong lavender. And for me, I don't get any juniper. Um, sometimes I experience juniper. You know how they talk about juniper having piney notes? I sometimes experience that being quite sort of mentholy, um, as against piney. And so, yeah, I'm not getting any juniper coming through at all. Um, but there you go. That's just my palate. Yours will absolutely be different. Um, yeah, yeah. So interesting. Two same base spirits, or same base gins, and then they have added, and they've created these two exceptionally different gins. So I find it fascinating. And I'm only sorry that we couldn't have one of the team here tonight to my notes get stuck amongst the work papers as well, Dot. Everything gets stuck amongst the work papers at the moment. So yeah, I'm really sorry that we couldn't have our team here tonight. It was a bit of a last minute cancellation, but we will make sure that we get, maybe we'll get a live with them, and I'll do another live so then we can just talk through this. But we will definitely get a video to you either way of an interview on how they made it, because I know you guys are always really interested in that. But for tonight, I think we might call it an evening here, because I've had a long day. Many of you have probably had a long day as well. And I've still got, I don't know about you guys, but I've still got, well, let's call that half a bottle of early harvest still to go. And I've got about just under half a bottle of the late harvest still to go. So I've definitely got a couple more sips of gin to enjoy as I round out my evening before I head off to try and get some much needed sleep, I have to say. I'm running on a very limited amount of sleep this week, but that's okay. No, it is early harvest just about gone, Dot says. Yeah, that is too easy for me to drink, I have to say. When I first tasted it, Dot, I was just like, I'm in heaven. I am absolutely in heaven. I love this early harvest. So I bought a bottle of it and we supped away at that wee bottle. I have to say, it didn't last long when the family discovered it as well. So for those of you who don't know, I have got two daughters now in their 20s. Trinity just turned 20 a couple of weeks ago. And so Trinity doesn't actually drink gin, but Caitlin, our oldest daughter, she drinks gin, and so does her partner. And we tend to have a lot of people come and visit us. Strange that when they come and visit, they're always happy to have a try of a gin and tonic, or a gin on the rocks, or a martini. Interesting. But yeah. Oh, okay. Dot's saying she's got the black Scapegrace. Yeah. I was fascinated with the colour. Absolutely. The colour is fantastic. And Dot, if you like the colour of that, the other one to try, which I've really recommended, is the Takapuna Butterfly Pea, because the butterfly pea is quite a bright blue, and you'll see it on our website. And to me, it has the most stunning flavours. It's really great. Very strong botanicals in there, and some people found it really quite aniseedy. So if you like aniseed, then yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I just thought it was a great gin, really great gin. So that's another one that you can try. And there's a couple more that are also bringing out a black in some degree. There's been a few more that have just released just recently. So yeah. Excellent. All right, peoples. Dinner and gin this weekend then. Oh, Tanya, I wish, but we've got a family thing on Saturday night. Maybe next weekend. Yeah. Dot, you would love that butterfly pea. You really would. Yeah. I don't know that you get such a strong flavour from the actual flour. I mean, I know that when we made it, and Dot, go back and watch the tasting of it before you take a look at it, because you'll love seeing the tasting. I think the internet was a little bit rough because we were on Wi-Fi, but the boys made a cocktail using butterfly pea flour tea, and it was very, very cool. So yeah, maybe go back and have a look at that tasting. You'll find it in the members site and also on the Facebook page. You'll be able to find it, and it was called Butterfly Pea Gin. So I think Takapuna Gin is the label of it. So you'll be able to find it and have a look at it. But it's a beautiful gin. Thoroughly recommend it. So everybody, thank you for joining me. Yes, it really will be your cup of tea, Dot, I think. Thank you so much for joining me, and it has been a real pleasure to do a little bit of an experiment tonight with a brown bag. And as I say, I apologise for the fact that we haven't had Scapegrace there, but it is strange times, isn't it? And so we really have to sort of roll with the punches as we navigate these crazy COVID times and people in isolation and all sorts of things. And I know that there is a lot of businesses, certainly from my client base, that are really stretched as far as resources. And so there's some real challenges there. Anyway, I will make sure I let you know by both email and in the Facebook group once I have either a date for a live with Scapegrace or a recording of a video interview for you. So please keep posted in the meantime. Keep posting on the Facebook group. I'd love to see your posts in there, and let me know what you're drinking gin wise at the moment, because yeah, there's I will be posting in the next few days. We've just had a whole lot of gin come in, and I'm very excited. Actually, I'll let you guys know because you're on the live. Ruin Distillery, that you remember from a couple of months ago. We didn't have their gin because you may remember that Tony couldn't get any bottles. He's got his bottles and we've got his gin. So that is very exciting. That is the Valley gin that we tasted a couple of months ago, which was amazing. And we've also got his other gin as well, which I haven't tasted yet. So I will be putting up a bit of a post to let you know once I taste that other gin as well. So go well, everybody. As Dot says, stay safe and stay dry wherever you are in the country. And of course, post a comment, hashtag replay if you are watching this on replay. Love to hear what you think of these gins. See you later, everyone.